I want to tell you a story, not about a celebrity, not about someone on the cover of a magazine, but about a man most people would have crossed the street to avoid. A man the world gave up on. A man the system tried to erase. A man who was supposed to rot behind bars, but instead, he built something greater than most will ever dream of. You see, I've met a lot of people in my life. Powerful people, famous people, rich people. But this man, he had none of that. He came from the dirt, from the streets, from a place where survival was the only goal. He made mistakes. He paid the price. Years behind concrete walls and steel bars. No excuses, no pity. But while the world moved on without him, he decided to come back swinging. Not for revenge, not for applause, but to prove one thing, that where you've been doesn't define where you're going. When I met him, he was already making waves, already helping men just like him get back on their feet, already showing the world that redemption isn't a myth, it's a decision. And as I watched him, listened to him, stood beside him, I realized something. Strength isn't how loud you talk, it's how quiet you fight when no one's clapping. This man didn't need a second chance. He took it, with bloody knuckles, with scarred hands, with a fire in his chest that nobody could put out. So if you're sitting there thinking, I've gone too far, it's too late for me, let me be clear, it's not. Because if he could rise from that cell, from that pain, from that silence, then so can you. He was 17 when the world stopped giving him choices. Grew up in a place where dreams didn't stretch past the block. Where your name wasn't on a future, it was on a file. His mom worked 2 jobs. His dad, gone. He raised his little brother more than he raised himself. And every day, the street whispered one message. If you want to eat, you better take it. So he did. Not because he wanted to be a criminal. Because he didn't see another way. One wrong crowd. One desperate night. One bad decision that changed everything. Armed robbery. Corner store. $100 and a gun he didn't even know how to hold right. No one was hurt. But that didn't matter. Because when the cops came, they didn't see a scared kid. They saw a threat. The trial was quick. The courtroom didn't care about his story. Didn't care that it was his first offense. Didn't care that he cried when the cuffs clicked. They gave him 10 years. 10. You ever see a kid walk into prison like that? Like he's about to disappear? Because that's what it felt like. Like the system swallowed him whole and didn't plan on spitting him back out. He said later, I thought that was it. My name was done. My future was gone. I was just another number now. And maybe you're thinking, well, he made a choice. You're right. He did. But tell me something. How many of us made dumb choices at 17 and just got lucky no one was watching? That's the difference. He got caught. And that became his label. His name wasn't his anymore. It was inmate number 837204. He lost his freedom, his dignity, his sense of self. And for a while, he believed that's all he'd ever be again. But let me tell you something. You can cage a body. You can lock down a name. But you can't kill a spark. And somewhere deep in him, something was still burning. Prison doesn't just lock your body. It tries to lock your mind. And for a while, it did. He walked into that place at 17. Skinny, angry, silent. The noise hit him first. Doors slamming. Shouts echoing off concrete. Men pacing like animals. Eyes empty but always watching. There are no mentors in there. No warm welcomes. Just rules written in fear and blood. You want to survive? You keep your head down. You don't ask questions. And you never look weak. He learned that fast. Got jumped his first week. Rib cracked. Lip split. And nobody blinked. Nobody helped. Because inside those walls, you are nothing until you prove otherwise. And he did. But not the way they expected. He didn't become the biggest. He didn't become the loudest. He became the quietest man in the room. He read. That's right. He picked up a book. Not to look smart. To stay sane. It started with a torn paperback someone left in the laundry room. A story about a man who lost everything. and found himself in the silence. He saw himself in that. And after that first book, he couldn't stop. Biographies, history, psychology, entrepreneurship. He read about people who fell and people who got back up. Every page became a brick, a piece of something he was building inside. Because while the world thought he was being locked away, he was unlocking himself. Other inmates noticed. They mocked him at first, called him professor, laughed at the kid with books in his cell. But then, they started asking questions, started sitting with him, started reading too. One man with a spark was lighting candles in the dark. And when the guards saw he wasn't starting fights, wasn't causing problems, they left him alone. More time to think, more time to learn, more time to plan. Because that's the thing about isolation. It'll destroy you or build you. And he decided, if I ever get out of here, I'm not coming back. Not ever. Not just for himself. For the men around him. For the world outside that never expected anything from him. He spent 8 years building a mind that was unstoppable, in a place designed to break him. And by the time that gate opened, he wasn't angry anymore. He was ready. The day he got out, there was no one waiting. No hugs. No balloons. No welcome home. Just a bag of state-issued clothes, $52, and a warning, don't come back. 8 years is a long time. Long enough for people to forget you. Long enough for the world to change. Long enough for a man to walk out of a prison gate and feel more lost than when he walked in. He stepped into a world that didn't care who he was, didn't care what he learned, didn't care that he read 100 books and rebuilt his soul. To them, he was still just a number. Every door he knocked on, closed. Every job application, sorry, we don't hire felons. He slept in basements, abandoned houses, church stairwells. A man with knowledge, discipline, fire, but no address. He washed dishes in the back of a diner, 12 hours a day, minimum wage, no questions asked. And you know what? He showed up, every day, on time, clean, focused. While others dragged their feet, he wiped tables with precision. Because he knew, you don't start big when you start over. You start humble, and you fight. He saved every dollar, ate once a day, bought secondhand shoes when the old ones split. And every night, he wrote ideas, dreams, blueprints. He wanted to build something, something real, something that couldn't be taken from him. He said, I may have walked out with nothing, but I didn't walk out empty. That's the difference. He didn't expect handouts. He didn't expect applause. He expected resistance. And he was ready for it. Because when life hands you silence, you learn to speak with action. And when the world turns its back, you build a door they can't ignore. You know how success starts? With a bucket, a rag, and a man who refuses to stay down. That's how he began. After months of washing dishes, he scraped together enough to buy a second-hand pressure washer. Old, rusted, loud, but it worked. He printed flyers at the public library, walked block to block, knocked on doors with his head held high. I clean driveways. I clean windows. I clean cars. Some slammed the door. Some laughed. But one woman, she said yes. A single car. $20. He cleaned it like it was a Rolls Royce. Tires, windows, door frames. Every inch spotless. She gave him a tip. And her neighbor gave him the next job. That's how it starts. One win. Then another. Then another. He called his new hustle clean break. Because that's what he needed. A clean break from his past. A clean chance for his future. By month 3, he was booked solid. 6 cars a day. Driveways, windows, small businesses. He worked from sunrise to midnight. No breaks. No complaints. And every dollar, he reinvested. New equipment. Better materials. Uniform shirts with his logo, his name on the back. Because now he wasn't hiding from his story. He was building something because of it. One night, a client asked him, "Why are you doing all this yourself?" He smiled and said, "Because no one hires men like me. so I hire myself. That line hit me. That's the mindset. When the system says, you're not allowed, you build your own system. And the best part? He didn't stop with himself. He hired another man, fresh out of prison. No family, no job, but he gave him a shot, taught him the trade, paid him fair. And just like that, he became more than a worker. He became a leader. Because the moment you help someone else rise, that's when you know you're no longer surviving, you're building. Growth doesn't always look like money. Sometimes it looks like purpose. He started with one man, then two, then five, all of them like him, ex-cons. Men with stories, not resumes. Men the world called lost, dangerous, unemployable. But he didn't see that. He saw potential. He saw himself. So he trained them, not just how to clean, but how to show up on time, how to look people in the eye, how to speak with confidence. He said, you're not workers, you're builders, and this is your second shot. Don't waste it. The business exploded. Word spread. There's a company in town that hires people no one else will, and they do the job better than anyone else. He got commercial contracts, apartment complexes, city buildings. He moved into an office, bought a fleet of vans, put his team in uniforms, sharp, clean, proud. But here's the thing, he never left the streets. He still visited the halfway houses, still showed up at job fairs with no table, just a folder of resumes, still walked into parole offices and said, send me your hardest case. I'll show you what he can do. That's what real leadership looks like. Not ego, not titles, but action. And the men he hired, they changed. Some reunited with their families. Some bought homes. Some started their own small businesses. One of them came up to him after a shift, tears in his eyes, and said, you saved my life, man. And you know what he said back? No, you saved your own. I just gave you a mirror. That's who he became. Not a boss, a builder of men. A man who once sat in a cell wondering if his name would ever matter again, now became the reason other men believed they could start over. That's not business. That's legacy. You know what real power is? Not money, not buildings, not titles. It's the ability to walk back into the fire you came from and pull someone else out. That's what he did. After years of growing his company, after building teams, earning respect, finding stability, he could have stopped. He could have lived comfortably, quietly, safe. But that's not who he was, because deep inside, he remembered the cold, the silence, the nights in that prison cell with nothing but concrete and questions. And he remembered the promise he made to himself. If I ever get out of this, I'll be the hand I never had. So he opened the center, a small building in a rough part of town, peeling paint, rusted roof, broken windows. But to him, it was sacred ground. He fixed it up, put up lights, painted the walls with art from local kids, wrote one word in big, bold letters across the entrance. Rebuild. Because that's what it was about. Second chances, fresh starts, real tools, not charity. He hired mentors, brought in barbers, GD tutors, job placement coordinators. You walked in broken. You walked out with a plan. Not everyone made it. Some slipped. Some ran. But some transformed. There was one kid, 19 years old, fresh out, scared to death. He said, nobody ever cared what happened to me. I figured I'd end up dead. And this man looked him in the eye and said, you're not dead. You're early. Let's get to work. That's what the center became. Not just a program, a movement. And soon city leaders took notice. Local businesses offered partnerships. He spoke at schools, prisons, conferences, not as a celebrity, as a man who lived it, who earned every scar, and turned pain into purpose. He once said, I spent 8 years locked up. Now I'm spending the rest of my life unlocking others. That's power. That's redemption. That's what happens when you take everything meant to destroy you and use it to build something no one can tear down. You've heard his story, and maybe you're thinking, good for him, but that's not me. let me tell you something, can be, because this story is not about perfection. It's about refusal. Refusal to quit. Refusal to stay broken. Refusal to let the past dictate the rest of your life. I met a man who had every reason to give up. No family, no future, no support, locked away, written off, forgotten. But while the world stopped believing in him, he started believing in himself. And that's where everything changed. Not when he made money, not when the business grew, not when the news finally called. It changed the day he said, "I'm more than what they say I am. I'm what I choose to become." Let me ask you something. What would happen if you stopped letting fear speak for you? What if you stopped replaying your failures and started writing your comeback? What if, right now, you made the same decision to rebuild, to rise, to lead? Because if a man can walk out of prison with nothing and build a legacy that lifts others, you can walk through whatever's trying to break you and come out on the other side stronger than you ever imagined. I'm not telling you it's easy. I'm telling you it's possible. I watched him do it. I saw him fall. I saw him rise. And today, he's not just free. He's a force. And you could be next.